My dear students, today I am going to introduce a new lesson. The name of the lesson is Decline of the Mughals and Rise of Independent Kingdoms. Lesson number 6. Decline of the Mughals and the Rise of Independent Kingdoms. You know, in 18th century witnessed an age of major changes in Indian history and landscape of India. Why? Because the most important Muslim kingdom, which was established during mid 16th century, in course of time, in absence of central authority and good successors, the empire disintegrated during 18th century. During the first and mid 18th century, the glory and image of the Mughals came to an end, and also paved the way of the rise of new kingdoms in Indian history. Now, what were the factors led to the decline of the Mughal Empire? There were many factors which led to the decline of the Mughal Empire. Number one factor I am going to explain you. Number one factor, weak successes. You know, the weak successors of the Mughals led the disintegration of the Mughal Empire. You know, the Mughal Empire, which was established by Babur after defeating the last Sultan Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat, and continued by his son, Humayun, and after Humayun, who came to power. After Humayun, Akbar came to power, and after Akbar, Jahangir came to power. After Jahangir, Khurram means Shah Jahan came to power, and after Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb came to power. So, from Babur to Aurangzeb, there was a phase of good leadership, and there was a central authority in the country. So the Mughals were able to establish themselves as a great kingdom in Indian history. But after the death of Aurangzeb in 1707 gave the regional kingdoms a concrete platform, and also paved the way to establish their authority in Indian history. That's why this is the most important part, weak successors of the Mughal dynasty. And next one, wars of succession. Second point, wars of succession. Wars of succession. What is wars of succession? Wars of succession means after the death of Aurangzeb, three sons, they led the war of succession among themselves, the three sons. But Bahadur Shah I was able to manage and became the emperor after the death of his father Aurangzeb. Bahadur Shah won, and and after the death of Bahadur Shah won, once again the same thing, same incident happened in Mughal Empire. And soon after the death of Bahadur Shah won, another war of succession started among his four sons. But Jahandar Shah emerged victorious, definitely because of his powerful image, and because of the reason he somehow managed a number of nobles. So many nobles were there who were won over, who were won over by Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb, the Aurangzeb's grandson, Bahadur Shah's Bahadur Shah one's son, Jahandar Shah somehow managed the nobles, and then he emerged victorious and powerful because of the help of Zulfikar Khan, who was basically a powerful noble. And then every time the ruler died and war of succession broke out, causing great turmoil, great difficulty throughout the country. And afterwards, this was because the law of the previous rulers, the predecessors of the predecessors of Aurangzeb, who followed the law for the people and established a law of the people in the country, the weak successors, they could not follow it, and ultimately the weak successors also led the way of destruction throughout the country. So the image of the Mughals lost in the country, and afterwards, Aurangzeb, could not maintain the vast empire. Aurangzeb, Aurangzeb made a vast empire by means of his own technique, own method, but he was unable to maintain it. The vast empire he was unable to maintain it. But till his death, he somehow managed. Until he was alive, he was able to somehow manage the vast kingdom with his iron grip. But in fact, the rulers after Aurangzeb, who are known as later Mughals, they could not manage, they did not have any capability of constructing a good system of introducing a good system of administration, and of course were unable to provide facilities and unequal treatment for the people of the country because they have no administrative skill, and as a result of it, the affairs of the governance fell in the hands of the nobles, and whenever the nobles became powerful, the other one, they all won over the nobles, and the regional kingdoms, they came to power. The regional kingdoms stopped paying taxes, and ultimately the regional kingdoms declared themselves to be independent states throughout the country. So now the failure of Jagirdari and Mansabdari system. Next point, failure of Jagirdari and Mansabdari system. Failure of Jagirdari and Mansabdari system. Before teaching this thing, I would like to analyze what is Jagirdari and what is Mansabdari system. Jagirdari and Mansabdari system was introduced by Emperor Akbar during his rule. The time when Akbar became the king of the Mughal dynasty, most of the people of the kingdom were happy, prosperous, rich. There was none to protest the system of governance of Akbar. Akbar was one of the most and famous ruler of the Mughal dynasty. So Akbar introduced the Jagirdari and Mansabdari system. What is Jagirdari system? What is Jagirdari and what is Mansabdari system? The Mughal officers were given Jagirs, means lands. The Mughal officers were given Jagirs or lands. And this system was introduced by Akbar, but it was a well organized system. The officers who were given Jagirs were known as Jagirdars. But ultimately, during the reign of other rulers, at the end of the rule of Akbar, the other rulers also were able to continue the system of Jagirdari and Mansabdari. But by the end of the 17th century, the number of Mughals increased in the Mughal court since there were very few Jagirs left. There were very few Jagirs left, and ultimately the crown lands were converted to Jagirs and given to nobles. So this resulted in a loss of revenue, and ultimately the royal treasury, as the revenue from the Jagirs were appropriately became empty. The royal treasury had become almost empty because of the loss of revenues. That's why the Jagirdari system also was abolished. And what is Mansabdari system? Mansabdari system also was brought into practice during Akbar's reign. Why? Because Akbar himself was introduced it. Akbar realized that it was the right time to control the entire system of administration with the help of officers, with the help of the nobles. Unless he was able to capture them, the influence of the special officers, influence of the nobles, then there will be no good administration in the country. So in order to honor the special officers in his administration, Akbar introduced the system of Jagirdari and Mansabdari. What is Mansabdari? Mansabdari was a system, especially the military officers were given the mansabs. The military officers were given mansabs, and the army, absolute control of the Mughal army. That means mansabdars were officers who maintained a fixed number of troops for the emperor, mansabdars. And the system helped the emperor, because a group of special officers, military officers were supposed to maintain a group of soldiers for the protection of the emperor. So for the protection of emperor, the mansabdars were the post created mansabdars. So emperor himself gave them the post and special honors, and as a result of it, this system became popular, and this system also was known as Mansabdari system. The system became weak towards the end of the 17th century, like the Jagirdari system. Mansabdars failed to fulfill the need and expectation, and also was unable to function properly. That Mansabdari, and thus the Mansabdari system became an ineffective method of controlling the Mughal army, and ultimately it led to a decline in the military strength and military power of the Mughal administration. So these are the system, and these are the causes of the failure of the Mughal system of administration, decline of the Mughals, and the failure of Jagirdari and Mansabdari system. And apart from this, the Mughal rulers, they had no administrative skills, and hence they could not interact with the nobles properly, and the system of spies also was ineffective and very weak. That's why the spies could not inform proper message, proper information, and they remain in the dark and could not learn the system of the country and the position and the condition of the people in the country. That's why the entire system of governance was totally failed during during the mid of 17th century, and as a result of it, the regional kingdoms declared themselves to be independent before declaring themselves to be independent. They all stopped paying taxes. So Akbar, what system Akbar once introduced? Before Akbar, before Akbar, it had been the system of the governors to collect taxes to pay themselves and the balance to the emperor of Delhi. But Akbar ordered that all taxes should be paid into the royal treasury, and that system also was followed by the next rulers after the death of Akbar. But it was continued till the death of Aurangzeb. But ultimately, the death of Aurangzeb, soon after the death of Aurangzeb, the other rulers who are incapable rulers and were unable to manage somehow the system introduced by Akbar, and ultimately it gave a birth of the new independent kingdoms who all declared their independent rights, and finally they all established their strong administration in their respective states. And India, the Mughal, the image of the Mughals was totally declined. Up to this, my dear students, make the related. Thank you.